Well, hello everyone. Right now, I'm standing in one of the sheds out on the farm where I grew up. See, it's a pretty quiet place here now. My mother still lives here at 94. My folks bought the place when they got married in 47. 50 to 60 years ago, it was a pretty active place because there were 10 of us children in all. It sure brings back memories looking around. Now I'm going to turn around, and this is a shed, a little two-car garage where I worked on cars as a teenager. Started with my older brothers doing engine changes and whatever. But what I'm going to show you here is a Farmall H, which my grandpa bought new. I never knew him because he passed away when I was only 2.5. And I believe it's been 10, easily 15 years since this tractor's been run. And I've been meaning for the last few years to get it running again. And I'm going to start looking at it a little bit today. First, I think I'm just going to engage the belt pulley there and try turning it a little bit just to see if the fan blade turns. So we'll give that a try. Let's see if we can get it engaged. I probably have my arm in the way. I don't remember if you pull or push the lever. Probably pull it. I got to get something to tap on it. I got the belt pulley engaged. Now I'm going to see if the fan blades turn at all. And you see something kind of interesting here. There's a piece of tire tread taped around the belt pulley. I don't know if that was for extra traction or to make it bigger in diameter, but the last this belt pulley was used, if you look down here, there's some kind of a guide made. I have two nephews that were twins, and they were hot dog snow skiers, and somehow they rigged up a rope for pulling them to get up enough speed to jump when they were snow skiing. I never saw them do it, but there are videos of it on the internet somewhere. But now we're going to wiggle the pulley and see if the fan blades wiggle. Here it goes. Yep. I didn't think it'd be tight. It's been sitting in the shed here with the muffler on and the rain cap closed. Now I'm going to push in the clutch while the belt pulley's engaged and see if the clutch shouldn't be rusted tight, because that happened one time, and working through the little bitty inspection hole in the bottom, I loosened up the pressure plate and got up inside and got the clutch plate loose. And ever since then, my father would always put a brick in between to hold the clutch disengaged. But I remember probably 15 years ago, once you're sitting in the house, 10 to 15 years ago, and the tractor hasn't been run since. He said he forgot to put that brick in place to hold the clutch disengaged. And I did that 15 years ago, or 10, whatever it was, and the brick was still in there. But I had to engage it to turn the motor. Now I'm going to put the brick back in and see if the pulley turns and the clutch disengages. So now I put the block back behind the clutch pedal again, and now when I turn the pulley, the engine shouldn't turn. And it doesn't. So that tells us we shouldn't have a problem with the clutch. The next thing I'll do is I want to get an oil line hooked up with my remote oil pump and pressurize the oil system before I even crank it over, because everything could really be dry in there. Oh, and I know it isn't original paint, because as a young boy, probably 10 years old or so, I remember my dad had the tractor into the dealer. I think it was Rissman Gamble in Beaver Dam. And he had the engine rebuilt, and at the same time he had the tractor repainted, because when I came back I remember it looked just like new. I mean, the tin work is in very good condition, I'd say. The emblem on the front is beat up, and there are little dents around on each corner here, but that's the extent of the damage. Oh, I see, here's a little dent. And these dents, I'm sure there's one on the other side, came from, if we had a pole with two tractors, we'd hook the chain on the frame here, and it'd go around the side, and that's how we would pull on it, and that's what that came from. So now I'm going to go ahead and try and get the hood off. And the hood is off. Now my plan is to disconnect the oil line from the oil pressure gauge, and that's where I'll hook up my remote pump and pump oil pressure to the engine before I turn it over. So I have my oil line hooked up to the feed for the oil pressure gauge. I have my remote pump. Now I'm going to try running it and putting oil pressure to it. And I always know if it's building pressure, because you can feel this hose expand when it gets pressure behind it. So I want to crank it until it does that. Here it goes. I can feel the hose expanding and contracting as I start and stop. So I know I'm getting good pressure behind it. So now I'll stop and hook the oil pressure gauge back up. Well, I have a battery sitting in place. I just hooked it up with jumper cable because the ground strap is missing. And we're going to hit the starter button and see if it cranks. Nothing. Of course, I didn't check the battery. Maybe the battery's stone dead. Well, it's not stone dead. It doesn't seem real alive. Nothing. So, I'm going to check further. Now I'm going to try right directly to the starter. And she spins. Maybe it's the starter button or some connections. Next I'll be checking for spark and put some gas to it. Well, I hooked gas up to the carburetor. Other than that, didn't do anything to it. And I haven't even checked the points yet. So I just turned the switch on, and I probably won't, but we'll see if it does anything. Nothing. We're going to check for spark. I'm going to check for spark. No spark. I'm going to clean the points, or check the points. Oh. Turn the gas on. I filed the points. Choke it, some throttle, hook up the ignition, and I'll try cranking it again. It showed oil pressure, and that was the first start in 15 years. I'm going to try starting it again. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to keep winding on the starter. And I'm kind of out of time today. But you heard it start for the first time in 15 years. Before I go at it again, I think I'll get the gas tank hooked up, get the starter button working. I don't know if it's poor contacts in it. Make sure the ignition switch works so that if it starts up, I can actually move. Well, not if, when it starts up. So when it starts up, I can actually move it. I might give it one more whirl here. I'm not getting spark now when I hook the ignition up to the coil and I cranked it to 12 volts. Maybe the coil failed or the points burnt again. But I think I'm going to let it at that. At least it had its first start in 15 years. And I'm going to come back probably with an 8-volt battery. That's what my dad used to run in it. And make sure the ignition switch is working and the starter button and get the regular gas tank hooked up. So I'm kind of out of time for today, but I heard the first start in 15 years. It makes me happy. Well, I filed the points and I'm going to try it again. Sounds pretty darn good. I'm going to shut it off and we're going to let it at this for today. Well, thanks for watching. It makes me happy to hear this run again. My grandpa and my dad are probably smiling right now. I don't know when I'll get back to this again because I got to get to work on the 60. But I was here visiting my mother, so I thought I'd start this up. And when I come back the next time, I want to get the gas tank hooked up. I want to make sure the ignition switch and the starter button are working so I can actually drive it out of here. So once again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I didn't really expect this to be any kind of a difficult start, but as you guys out there who do this kind of stuff, you just never know. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.